All righty. Welcome back. We are Nate and Simone. We talk all things marketing. Today, we're talking about how to make your business more valuable, even if you're not selling. Did you know that making your business valuable isn't just for when you're ready to leave and you're on the way out the door? You can make your business valuable while you're still in it, while you're working, even if you're planning on being there for another 50 years. So that's what we're talking about today. Subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends and other entrepreneurs, business owners that you know, so that this our messages can get out to more people. And also at the end, make sure that you put in the chat what your biggest takeaway was. What'd you learn today? Because I'm sure you're going to learn something. Not everybody out here is talking about making your business more valuable. Okay, so let's get started. Hey, Nate.
Hello, hello, back again. Um, Simone, did you know? I talked to someone here recently, and they told me that they were talking to a business broker, and they said the business broker told them that of all the businesses that come to them saying, "Hey, can you sell my business?" Well, let me put it to you, and let me ask a question. What percentage of those businesses do you think are actually able to be sold? According to the business
I'm
broker.
going to say, based on what we know, I'm going to say not that many. I'm going to
Okay,
say maybe
well,
about like 10%.
oh my gosh, you are exactly correct.
Wow, really?
10%. Yeah, 10% of the businesses that come are actually able to be sold.
Wow.
And due to a number of different factors, right? But um, amongst the reasons would be, how much of the business is essentially dependent upon the owner, right? If the
Yeah.
owner leaves, does the business fall apart? Um,
Yeah. Based
yeah, and
on
it,
the people that I've talked to, the business owners that I've met, I would say that it would be a high percentage of businesses out there that
yeah,
are
yeah,
dependent on the owner. They can't step away for too long without
yeah.
the business falling
And
apart.
I spoke with a business broker myself, and I said, don't you think that revenue growth consulting would be great for businesses to help them, get there, as far as like being able to sell a business? And she said, it's a great idea. I agree with you. But the problem is that most of the businesses we talk to, um, they have waited too long to get their
Mm,
business in order. Like they're wanting to exit within the next, 2 to 3 years, and they simply do not have the things in order in the business that are going to allow them to exit at the highest possible multiple they could,
yeah.
you know? And
Wow.
so it's like, we'd love to help you, but there's just simply not enough time. And you haven't done the things that you need to do while you were in business to keep things in order to build the systems that are going to allow you to step away, right?
Right.
And they wait until the
Right.
last minute when they're ready to exit and they want to retire. This is their nest egg. They put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. They want to step away and extract the value out of it, but they simply can't because they just haven't done what they need to do to actually make it sellable.
They have
So,
to prepare uh, way in advance before they can exit
yep,
in the way that they really want to.
yeah,
Mm,
and so that's going back to what we talked about. Making a valuable business is not necessarily just about exiting, right? It can help you where you're currently at. It can help make the business more operationally sound and independent of you, and also create a predictable revenue engine within the business, right?
right.
Um, and
Can build the business that you actually love right
yeah,
now
yeah,
before you're ready to retire and exit out so that you actually have a business that you wanted when you started this.
Yeah. And it's not just, again, it's not just because you're looking to exit. It's not just for investors necessarily, but it's for your own personal sanity and so that you actually enjoy what you're doing as well, at the very
Absolutely.
least.
Yeah.
Um, all those other things are kind of like, bonuses. But really, when it comes down to it, it might just be about you, um, being able to take your stuff out of it, take some time off, let the thing run by itself, knowing full well that everything is going to go smoothly, without you there. Um,
I think what
and
what a lot of people have, and it's a problem, is that their businesses aren't real businesses. They're really glorified jobs. They're,
yeah,
it's a job that you created for yourself. And so what really needs to happen is that we need to turn it, transform it from a job and into a real business that can
yeah,
run without you.
yeah. So by definition, let's examine that a little bit. By definition, job is means that you're working for an employer, performing tasks and duties in exchange for a set income.
Mm.
Okay. And a business, by definition, is where you're owning and operating an enterprise, taking on the risks and rewards of the business. Um, but you're not necessarily the one doing all the work, right? You own it, but you're not necessarily in it doing all the work. So there's a crucial difference there. Okay, let's see here. All right. Business value is not necessarily about revenue. It is also about being able to transfer. So you could transfer this business to someone else if you need be, right? Um, Again, just being in a position where it's able to actually operate on its own makes it valuable. Sort of to some degree, plug and play,
Mhm.
and that in and of itself makes it more valuable, right? Um,
That
what
reminds
what
me of a question that our mentor Ken asked us a while back, and he said, "What is a business?" Um, and I said, "Well, it's a group of people coming together for a common goal to make a profit, right?" And he said, "No, business is a system or a
Yeah,
collection of systems. If you have systems, you have a collection of systems, then um, you have a repeatable process that it really doesn't matter necessarily about the people. You can swap out the people, but the system still runs and everything still works. So that's what makes it possible for a business owner to be able to step away if they have created a system that works end to end. They can step away from it, plug someone else in, and the whole process continues to work and to flow the way it's supposed to.
yeah. Um, here are some of the reasons why we want to increase the value of a business, besides what we've already discussed, or in addition to. So we're looking for recurring revenue. If you are building a business, the earning potential is theoretically unlimited. So think about that. Whereas if you're working in a job, you have a set salary, set income, right? So that's a crucial difference. And if you are creating those systems within your business, you could make that revenue more recurring, dependable. Um, Team independence. So you are giving the tools to your team to allow them to make decisions on their own, right? So that you are not the one necessarily fighting all the fires. Um, you are also looking at how can I retain customers, right? As the saying goes, there's no better customer than the one you currently have. And so you want to maximize that customer value. But also, efficient operations. You want your business to run efficiently. You are limiting costs, which increases the bottom line, that revenue that you're taking home. So yeah, these are some of the core reasons that we want to increase the value. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think Simone, you'd said this, but the most valuable businesses are the ones that don't fall apart when the founder steps away. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about how valuation shapes better decision making in the business. So, um, if you think so, there's a famous book, Seven Habits of Highly Successful People. Stephen Covey. He said one of the things he said was begin with the end in mind. Right? It's one of
Mhm.
his maxims. And so, if the end of a business is, you, well, hopefully it doesn't dissolve, but that you are selling it, extracting yourself from it, taking the value out of it, retiring if you want to, etc. So that is the end. So you have to begin where you want to end, right?
Mhm.
So you are imagining that you're going to sell it eventually. So what would someone who wants to buy a business, what would they what would they be willing to part their money uh, in exchange for, as far as the business is concerned? And if that business revolves entirely around you, and you leave and the business falls apart, no one wants to pay for that, right? That's not
Right.
very valuable.
That's not valuable.
Yeah. All right. So here are some common inefficiencies that can tank your business valuation. First off, we've already talked about this, no systems or documentation. Documentation is also a crucial piece of that, right?
Absolutely, right?
SOPs, how to,
Once you
how to do
build those
stuff.
systems, now you
Yeah.
have to document it so that, yeah, everybody knows how it works. All the new people don't know how it works.
Yeah.
It's
Know how
easy
to
to
pull the levers
take
and push the
someone else
buttons.
and
Yeah.
yeah, plug someone else in and they know what to do right away.
Yeah. And this would really apply to an e-com just as much as it would a construction company, I think. You know, you're going to have different SOPs, you're going to have different systems, obviously. But in the end, I think if you boil it down to its bare basics, minimums, the systems are actually going to be pretty similar. And the documentation is actually going to be similar too. But with construction, obviously, you're going to have maybe more details in some aspects. But anyway, um, over reliance on the owner is another one. We've already kind of talked about that too. If your business is all about you and you step away and it falls apart, it's not worth as much as it could be. You only have, well, the majority of your revenue is tied to just a few clients. That's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. If
Um,
you lose one client, that then one third of your income walks out the door with them. Yeah, that's no
yeah,
good.
there's something to be said for raising your prices, getting rid of the customers that aren't ready, willing, or able to pay the amount that you want to sell things for. But by the same token, um, you're kind of throwing all your eggs into one basket in that case, right? So,
Yeah. So then I think really the thing to do there is you get rid of the clients that are just a headache, really. Um, their few dollars aren't really worth the headache that they are.
yeah.
And you may and so then you may decide, okay, I'm going to raise my prices and I'm going to focus on the clients that are less of a headache but are willing to pay more. So then the thing to do then is to get more of those so
Hmm.
that your revenue isn't tied to just a few.
Yeah,
If
you could,
one decides to leave, you don't want a third of your income leaving,
mhm.
right out the door with them. So
Yeah,
I heard one mentor, he talked about a great business model is high value and high volume. High
mm,
value, high volume.
Yeah.
right?
Yep. If you have narrowed it down to those customers that you really want to work with, then that becomes your ideal customer profile. Then you can just start targeting just those customers, right? This is
Absolutely.
not, however, what we're talking about here is not the same thing, however, as the next problem, which is
Mm,
poor customer retention. Okay, not the same thing here. The difference
right.
there, you are actually making the choice
Mhm.
that gets rid of those lousy customers and gets you more of the customers that you really want to work with. If you are unable to keep the customers that you do want to work with,
You want to work
that's
with.
the problem.
Exactly.
That's a big problem. Okay.
Yeah. So there
Um,
needs to be a focus on retaining the customers that you actually want.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm,
Um, that might involve having a customer success program within a company, et cetera. There's all kinds of things you can get into that with that. All right. Let's see here. So let's look at some of the metrics that we could use to help us make these decisions when it comes to um, building a business that has value. And one of them I think I touched on earlier is customer lifetime value, CLC. And going
mm,
along with that is the customer acquisition cost, CAC, and what ratio you have between the two there. I think that's important to note.
right.
If
So one
you,
we want to raise and the other one we want to lower, right? We want to
yeah,
raise the customer lifetime value and
right,
lower the cost to acquire a new
yeah.
client.
Generally speaking, it costs a lot less to retain a customer than it does to acquire a new one.
Right.
That's the idea.
And in putting in programs and systems that help us to retain clients, we also want to put in place systems that incentivize those wonderful clients to refer to us more. So we don't spend as much on acquiring new customers. We actually incentivize the customers that we already have to bring us more. And when they bring us more, um, we it takes it those new referrals actually are convert better and easier and faster than the people that we acquire on our own, simply because they're coming in the door with all they already have some know like and trust built in because they're being referred by somebody that they already know like and trust, and so we're
Yeah.
inheriting some of that.
Yeah, and even if you give a referral reward to someone for sending you a referral that turns into a paying customer, the chances are really good that you've paid a lot less for that new customer than you would if you were, running tens of thousands of dollars in ads per month, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
um, churn rate is another metric that we want to look at and that goes back to poor customer retention, right? If your churn rate is high, then there's something going on there and you need to take a look and really figure out, dig into what it is. In
Mhm.
some cases, it kind of depends on what it is that you're selling. Churn rates may be kind of par for the course and it may be expected because let's say that you have a service business where it's a limited contract of like 6 months. Well, every 6 months, then those people that are in, paying customers churn, right? They leave.
Mhm.
Well, what if there was a way to kind of keep them in your orbit, so
Yeah.
that they continue to refer people to you and become a valuable source of referrals, or you keep them in your orbit until they are ready for your services again, for example, right? Um, and so having a program built around that, mitigating that churn rate is, I think, important and crucial when it comes to building, predictability and systems in your business. Um, another another
So,
another another key metric here is your profit margin consistency. Um, do your profit margins fluctuate? And I would be wondering why in the world that is. Um, Talked to somebody yesterday. It was actually a kind of a role playing scenario, but it was interesting because one of the things he said was, and he was role playing being a construction company owner.
Hmm.
And he said, well, we don't have a consistent way to create estimates for customers. We have three estimators out in the field, and they're giving, different estimates for the same type of job because we don't have any kind of consistency in our business built around that. So that is an
That's a
example
problem.
of profit margin consistency problem, right?
Yeah.
Potentially. So if you have one person estimating higher than the other, maybe the other one wants to estimate low in order to try to secure the deal. Well, how much is that eating into your profits then, right?
Right.
Um, Taking a look at industry averages for your business, I think is important in that case, right? What kind of profit margin is everybody else making? Um,
Mm.
and making sure that you have the systems and processes in place to help maintain that and keep it consistent. I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, what if you're in an area where your customers talk to each other?
right.
That could
Yeah.
be a problem.
Or what if you have multiple reps talking to the same person giving different quotes? That's a real problem.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
Yeah. Um, okay. So another one is looking at recurring versus project revenue. So that monthly recurring revenue, I think, is like the gold standard that everybody wants to get to because it's just easy for you. You don't have to think about it, right? And it provides some consistency for your customers, etc.
Yeah.
It's easier for
Some
you for
predictability for you.
predicting. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, you know, in the case where you have more of a project-based business, what can be done in those cases for you um, to try to mitigate the ebbs and flows there? That becomes more of that roller coaster effect, right? I get a bunch of projects, maybe it's seasonal, right? Like especially
Yeah,
if you're running a construction company, roofing, for example, they're not going to do a whole lot of work in the winter, right?
right,
And
right.
so that's the type of thing that they have to think about. And a lot of times, with construction, especially, it tends to be more, one and done project type of situation. But
Hmm.
again, what can be done to kind of keep that customer in your orbit for when they have their next project?
Right.
Or, one of the things I thought was pretty interesting was a local HVAC company here to me who sold tiered subscription services. So if you were in a certain tier, you were paying, $20 a month for access to them, priority access to them. In the winter months, for example, if you want to get your HVAC system serviced before it gets cold,
Hmm.
and you forgot to do that during the summer and it's getting the winter time and you want to make sure that everything is up to snuff and your house doesn't burn down because you have dust trapped in there or something. Well,
Yeah.
you could call them and get priority because of course everyone else is doing the same thing, right? So but you can get bumped to the front of the line if you're paying a certain amount, right? And
Right.
they have different tiers, and so different tiers come with different perks. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I
That
think
works
that is
well
interesting.
for yeah, that works well for the HVAC company because they have predictable revenue then. Even though
Exactly.
it might
If
only
they're not,
be 20, 30, $50 a month, you start
yeah,
adding that up across the clients, and that helps to smooth that roller coaster out a little bit.
smooths out that, yeah, all of a sudden your business isn't completely dependent on the seasons anymore.
Yeah,
Now you can count on income coming through all year round,
yeah,
you know? So yeah, roofing companies, I've heard of hair salons doing it, just, having some sort of a maintenance program, monthly subscription program um, that your customers can pay into, that they get more perks. Um, and I do like that with the HVAC, because it's a benefit to the customer, because
Yeah.
then they're not for them, they don't have to necessarily, even if they wait until the last minute or something, they'll get priority service. But they're also thinking about it before it gets to that last minute um, emergency situation where it's like, okay, I have to do it now. Like, well, you've
Hmm.
been paying into it all this time. Might as well just call them up, when you first think about it,
Yeah. Yep.
be on your
Um,
radar.
another kind of offshoot of that would be like loyalty programs.
Hmm.
That helps to, again, smooth that out. So if you're building incentives into repeat business with you, so if it's more project based, if they choose to do their projects with you, they can build up this loyalty, which allows them to get like a free project or something like that, right? I
Right.
went or a vastly discounted project in the future.
Yeah,
Um, so
absolutely.
that can help
I
you out
think
there.
those types of programs are awesome for your customers and for the business to
Hmm.
build
But
up that loyalty, keep them coming
that's
back.
yeah, that's the type of thing we're talking about with thinking about how you can build value into your business, and then helps that in turn helps you to make better decisions in your business, right?
Yeah, it forces you to think outside the box, I think,
Yeah.
as a business owner. Which
Yep.
is why it's so helpful to really come together and not just do the day-to-day work of the business, but really come outside of it and start thinking differently about where you want your business to go. So it goes back to thinking about the end in mind. Like, where do I want this business to go? Having that CEO time, that 10,000 foot view of your business, rather than working every day, you're just doing the daily thing, working in the business.
Yeah.
No, step outside of it and start thinking more strategically about, okay, what's overall, how is this working, where do I want it to go, how can we improve, on this seasonality of the business, how can we
Mhm.
smooth out that the profits that we're getting, so it's not
And
feast or famine.
yeah, and the beautiful thing about that is once you have this established, this is a system that goes with the business. It's no
Mhm.
longer dependent on how well you know these customers, and how affectionate they feel towards you as the business owner. You have
Right.
them in a subscription service, and so you have their contact information. You're always, you're billing them, which, by the way, when a customer gives you money, every time it's easier for them to give you more money, right? So there's that.
Right.
But
Right.
that whole system goes along with the business. It's not dependent on you and your who you know and your connections necessarily as a business owner. So that makes the business more valuable. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Because then that's lead flow, right? So yeah. Um, all right, which is one of the things that they look for when valuing business. Okay. Strategic moves to increase your business value. All right. Operations, I think is a crucial bit to any business, right? But operationalize the value building is an interesting concept that a lot of people may not take into consideration.
Mm.
So upsells, well, we talk a lot about upselling, designing a path for you to provide more value to customers, and in turn, the customers give more money, right? Which increases the revenue that you're generating, but then also increases the lifetime value per customer.
Yeah.
Um, Again, you're increasing value all around there in that case.
I say every
Um,
new, one way I always think of upsells is every solution creates a new problem. So once you solve a problem for a client, a customer, what's the next problem that they have? And can you solve that? Well, if you can, well, there's your upsell.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Um, it might be, tricky, I think, sometimes when you're doing something like a construction job, right? Or a home remodeling job, because the client is contacting you and they're saying, "Hey, I need a new bathroom." Okay, let's take a look, see what you got.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in the middle of the project, and you see over here something going on with the living room, for example. You know, training your guys in the field to be looking for certain things
Mm-hmm.
can be effective, I think, which they can then start to bring up and start that conversation with the customer. They've already given you money. You presumably you're doing a good job. That gives you sort of like a foothold and a place to start from when it comes to building on that conversation, that relationship. Kind of getting them think about the next project. In other words, right? In that case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Or even referrals to another specialty that you may have a referral program for or something, you know?
yeah. Um, all right. Referrals. Speaking of referrals, um, systematizing your referral program can increase revenue without ad spend. Um, you know, like we said, there's no better customer than the one you currently have for the reason of lifetime value, increasing that lifetime value, decreasing customer acquisition costs, but also being a source of referrals, potential referrals for your business, which cuts down again on your customer acquisition cost, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Turning your client base into marketers for you.
hmm
Go
Giving
out
them
and
something to
speak
talk
on your
about,
behalf. Yeah.
positive reviews, etc. Um, all right, customer retention. So, how can you get customers to stick around to reduce that churn? I think we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, but what are some ways that you can get them to stick around? We talked about subscription services to increase that monthly recurring revenue, etc. There's all kinds of things that you can do.
Loyalty programs. Yeah.
Loyalty programs.
Mhm.
Yeah. And operational efficiency. Oh, sorry, one customer retention. One thing I'll say there is something I learned about or heard about very recently is the idea of creating a alumni academy of
Mm.
sorts with your past
Like a
customers.
Yeah, almost like a community of past customers, right?
Yeah,
I was about to say communities. Create some
community.
sort of
Yeah.
a community where
hmm
they're not just your customer, but they're in your community and the customers are talking with each other and they don't want to leave uh, because they're getting great value. But not only are they getting great value within that community, you can turn it into a special club, right? um they're also making friends and they don't want to leave because they don't want to leave their friends. So if you build something like that they are um where they're connecting with like-minded people, well, now you've
Yeah.
got some serious stickiness because people don't want to lose their friends. It's hard to make
hmm
friends as an adult.
Yeah. Yes. Yes,
So if you
indeed.
can create that space for them, then you're the hero.
hmm Okay. Operational efficiency. So we talked already about documenting SOPs, getting that documentation. Now, one thing I'll say about that is a lot probably the number one reason that people don't document, my guess, let's say this is my guess, is that they are afraid that it's going to take a lot of time and be difficult to do. But there are all kinds of tools
Doesn't
out
have
there
to be.
now
Oh, yeah.
to make this as painless as possible, to document. And by documenting, it doesn't necessarily need to be written. Okay.
Exactly. I was just thinking about that. Like,
Yeah.
what if you're a service provider and you're coming into people's homes to do work, do remodeling, do a construction project, whatever. Um, you could be wearing a camera on your helmet or something as you're doing the work and just recording as you go.
Yeah. Somebody, I heard about going back to is an HVAC company actually. What they did is, um, as far as like it's a method for customer accountability and documentation of what they've done for the day. They were issued iPads, or yeah, it was an iPad with an app installed, and the app is funny. The app was actually originally used for soccer coaches to videotape their kids while they were playing, so that they could actually like make notes and then bring it up later and show them, the things that they could work on for the next time.
Hmm.
But somebody had the brilliant idea of bringing this into the construction job site and using for the same idea, basic same principle, where they were documenting what they did, showing this and then uploading it to a customer portal. So that showed both the owner of the business what was accomplished for the day, but then also the customer.
Yeah,
And you didn't necessarily have to report back to the boss and bug him, take up his time because it was right there. He could look at it whenever he wanted to. And the same with the customer. You didn't have to call them up and bug them at work and let them know. They could look at that at their leisure, and everybody's on the same page. They see the progress that's being achieved and everyone's happy. This is
yeah.
like going back to that concept of like revolutionary concept of the Domino's delivery progress, indicator. Have you seen
Oh,
this?
yeah, 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 yeah.
People love this apparently.
It's
So
really great. Yeah. Because you know what, and it's a little bit psychological too, right? If you can see that there is progress on this little wheel on your app, then you're
everyone's
not
just
sitting there twiddling your
brings it
thumbs and
down.
just,
Yeah. You're
oh,
not
when are they
wondering
gonna get
like,
here?
when
What's
is this going to be
happening?
done? Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
And think
okay,
about
now I
it.
can look at this, and
Yeah.
it takes the exact same amount of time as it would have taken without the app. But now
Right.
with the app, as a customer, I can see progress. And so
Yeah.
once I feel like things are happening, I calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can see
You,
that there are changes in this little indicator that's, oh, they've on to the next step. It's now
yep.
not just preparing. Now it's in the oven. Oh, now it's out of the oven. Okay. You know, there's
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah, and think about it. If you are a homeowner and your life is being disrupted by the constant pounding and sawing and hammering and dust and everything, you're just wondering when is this going to be done, right? And
Yeah,
so that'll go a long way to making sure that that customer gives you a good review at the end of that project, I think.
absolutely. When they can see,
Um,
yeah, they're seeing that
oh,
there is progress actually being made. It's not just a lot of
yeah,
noise in my house
yeah.
and disruption. Yeah,
And not only that, but the delays caused by changes are documented. That's change requests and that kind of thing. And then they can see, oh, this is why it's taken longer because I made this request.
right,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, so there's twofold here with operational efficiency. You're simplifying the workflow, generally speaking, as much as possible, and that goes for documented things as well. Simplifying, keeping that as simple as possible, so that
Absolutely.
there's less of an excuse to not do it, right?
Right.
Um, okay, and then leadership delegation. I think this is a good one. You are allowing your teams you're giving your teams the tools that they need to make decisions. And
Absolutely.
this can be an interesting and touchy subject, I think. you know um
It's a little bit of a I think yeah, for some people, being the owner of the business and having everybody come to you, you feel like, okay, I'm needed, I'm wanted. It all depends on me. The buck stops here, and that's great, but that doesn't give you it may be a nice ego boost, I suppose, but it doesn't give you any rest, any it doesn't give you any kind of freedom from the business at all if everything is resting on you. But if you empower your team to make decisions. Um, I um, I was talking to this one coach, and he was saying, ultimately, you want to have in your business a team of leaders
Yeah.
where they are empowered to make decisions, and and when you put systems in place where everybody knows kind of how the system is supposed to work and what the end goal is, then it's easier to make decisions because you already know what's supposed to be happening. And they don't, everybody doesn't necessarily need to come to you to make decisions when, okay, well, this went wrong, this didn't work out, that needed to change, that kind of thing. You already know what everybody knows what's supposed to happen. So um, if when you empower them to make those kinds of decisions, well, then yeah, as the owner, you can step away and take a month-long vacation, um, and things will continue to work because your team knows they know how to make decisions.
Yeah. And, as far if you so as far as the owner, the place of the owner in this scenario, if you have a team of leaders, then potentially the owner has fewer people that they need to kind of train as far as like how to make the best decisions in given the scenario, right? And then those leaders are then responsible for the people under them to help them out, right? And so it just kind of this top down,
Yeah,
situation.
yeah,
And if you're doing it right, you're doing it well, then everything works smoothly. So,
yeah. I think
um,
it's great to. I think that helps you in your hiring too when you're thinking about who do I hire. Um, I think it's good to look at people who are willing to take some ownership and some responsibility over their jobs, over the areas that they're managing, so
mhm.
that you don't have people who feel that need to constantly to, oh well, I don't want to make this kind of decision, this looks like too much, and let me constantly run to the boss and ask them about this and ask them about that.
Yeah. There are some businesses, and I've had this experience where people are incentivized to not tell people how they do things because they look at it as job security, which is just completely wrong in my mind, both
It
from the
is.
standpoint of the business, but then anybody else who needs to that information, right? And is then forced to reinvent the wheel like that. It's just crazy. It's absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
because now you're
Um,
wasting time and money.
yeah.
Yeah, having to retrain
At
and
what ends up
all that.
happening in that case is you have really rotten eggs, you know what I mean, who know that they would be out otherwise, clinging clinging desperately to whatever shred of thing that they can hold on to. Right? It's just
Mhm.
toxic, very toxic, unfortunately. And I've experienced that, so don't recommend it. All right. So next up, let's go into how valuation, building a valuable business, benefits you, even if you don't sell. So first off, let's talk a little bit about why value first, thinking value first improves everyday operations. First off, it's easier to hire. Okay. People looking for a job. Um, I know. I don't know about you, but I would want to work for a place that runs efficiently, is not chaotic. Everyone seems to be smiling and happy. Like there's telltale indicators, I think, of a place that you don't really want to work for. Um, and it's a if you are looking on LinkedIn and seeing, a high amount of people leaving the business, for example, or a very low, short career span with the business, you might want to ask yourself some questions there about what might be going on.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's also easier to hire when the current employees are talking about how much they're appreciated and
Yeah.
um, how much power that they're given over their area to make those decisions and to be able um, to work efficiently and to understand where the business is going. Um, they can then share that. They can become advocates
Right.
along with the clients of your business and sharing with other people who might be looking for work. And I
Hmm.
think that makes it easier to attract what do they call A players, A level people, you
Hmm.
know?
And therefore, if it's easier to hire, it makes it easier to scale your company, right? Because you can find people generally, but then hopefully that means you can also find the right people and that are actually going to be able to take you to that next level, right? Building that team of leaders, as Simone said. You
Mhm.
want people that you can depend on that are capable of making those decisions on their own, etc. Which makes it easier to step away, right? So that thinking with value first in mind makes it easier to hire, easier to scale the business, and easier to step away. Those three things. Um, okay, so let's think about, speaking of stepping away, that leads into hopefully long-term freedom for the business owner and um, potentially leading to things like licensing, franchising, partnerships, things like that. If what you have built is truly systematized and predictable, I mean, you might want to think about turning it into, the next McDonald's, for example. Who knows? There's reasons why you would not want to do that, but then some people, that's what they want to do. So
Yeah.
that's an option
You want to become a
at that point.
household name where everybody in the world knows them.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
not only that, but the system, right? It's all built around system. McDonald's is a
it's
well-oiled
a
machine,
system. Yeah,
if nothing else, right?
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. I remember do you remember that movie that was on Netflix about I think it was called The Founder, about the start of McDonald's and how Ray
yeah.
Kroc turned it into the empire that it is now. I remember one of the earliest scenes in the movie where they were in the kitchen and they had the kitchen laid out on the floor. Like there's the fry station and the burger station and the shake station and this station and that station. And it was just like, and they choreographed the movements as,
Mhm.
okay, somebody comes in, they come in over here, they order a burger, they order a full meal or whatever. Okay, this is what happens. And they choreographed the whole thing. They really and practiced it all out to get the timing right, to get it down to, because this was the first fast food restaurant ever. So they wanted to make it as fast as possible. And okay, well, it's not as efficient if the fry machine is over here and the burger machine is over here, or that kind of thing. Okay, so let's shift and let's move it over here, and then okay, and then we go back and we practice it again, and they got it down to, I can't remember how low it was, but it was okay. You order, you get, you make your order, and like 2 minutes later, here's your meal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it was
But there's
such an
only one
efficient
way.
system,
Yeah, there's only one way that that could have happened, and everything had to be in a certain place in order for that
right?
to happen the way, it's supposed to happen. Um,
And then it's
but
no
yeah,
wonder
without
that
documenting it, without having a system, without thinking it through, it's not
yeah,
going to
they had to think it
happen.
through, they had to choreograph it, they had to
Yeah.
practice it, to get the system to a point where it was like the most efficient, food delivery system ever. And I thought that was just amazing. No wonder like McDonald's is held up um, as the like most efficient business system.
Yeah. Do you know how McDonald's makes their money now?
Real estate.
Yes, they are the number one real estate owner in the
Yes,
world
in the
for
world.
as far as the
And
restaurant industry is concerned.
and that was out of necessity.
Yeah.
Basically from the movie, uh, Ray Kroc is going around the country and he's creating all these franchises, but the McDonald's brothers would not raise the fees that they were charging the franchisees, and and therefore Ray Kroc wasn't getting paid as much as he wanted to get paid. So he said, "Okay, well then, new deal. Instead of charging them a lot for the a bigger percentage of the profits or whatever. We'll just charge them for the land that the McDonald's restaurant sits on."
Hmm.
And he ended up starting a new real estate corporation that leased all this land to all these different McDonald's restaurants and
Yeah.
just started making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
And I don't think the McDonald's brothers got any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which leads us down a different conversation. But
Yeah,
anyway.
that's a whole different conversation, but it was just very interesting. I saw right and wrong on both sides.
Yeah.
I found that the the McDonald's brothers were very stuck in their ways and very they I felt like they refused to see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Um and they could have had a much bigger piece of the pie.
Hmm.
And then, but at the same time, Red Kroc was, he was just going full steam ahead and just basically steamrolling over these guys.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
I think
interesting, but yeah,
he was in
very
his what
efficient.
50s or something like that at the time. So I think he was looking at like, oh my gosh, I got to make as much money as possible so I can retire. That was
Right.
probably part of it. But
Yeah.
I think
He was
his
getting older. He
idea
was tired
there
of doing what he was doing.
leads us into our next idea, which is building a legacy.
Hmm.
Um, if you are thinking about that long-term freedom, right? Building value in the business enables you to have that, to build that legacy. You want to pass it on to somebody else, potentially. Whatever that may look like, whatever that may mean, and whoever it may be going to, what is kind of beside the point. But again, it's similar here. If similar situation to people who are looking at valuing businesses, right? Nobody wants you to hand them a business that falls apart, when you're not there. And so it's just like,
A
because
lot
that's a
of
lot of work
people,
trying to clean up the mess.
I think a lot of people, part of what they want to do too is hand their business over to their children, to the next
Right.
generation.
And then we're in that
And not
silver tsunami right
necessarily,
now, you know.
yeah, not
Yeah.
necessarily, allow a stranger to buy it and then run it, but have they build it out for their children to then come and take over. Well, a lot of what happens is that the next generation runs it into the ground. And why do they do that? Maybe
Yeah.
it's because the systems are inefficient and the systems aren't
Yeah.
necessarily to a
I'm
built
just not
to a
like
point
him
where,
or her,
yeah,
I can't do what they did,
can't
like,
take me
yeah,
out and
yeah,
swap somebody else in and
yeah,
it continues
yeah,
to work, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
um yeah, that system needs to be tight and efficient, so somebody else comes in, it continues to run like a well-oiled machine and their innovations just add to it, not take away from it.
Yes. Having a valuable business, if nothing else, gives you options, which can translate into freedom. All right.
Yes.
So, what stage are you in currently? Um, Part of what we do is taking a look at the feasibility of the business, the viability of the business, and of course, the value, which is what we've been talking about here today. And within those, we break those down into different systems in the business. So uh, there are, according to the assessment that we have available, I'll include the link in the description. There are different stages of the business depending on where you are at. And so it asks you some questions about where you're at, how you delegate things, how you're generating leads, what kind of revenue you're getting, and that kind of stuff. If you are in stage three, for example, that is where you are probably ready to grow. Everything still runs through you. You know, you've achieved a certain level of success, but you remain the bottleneck in the business. And until you are ready, willing, and able to delegate, you can't get to the next stage. And this is like based on research, so we're not making this up. This is kind of based on the Harvard business small business model, or Harvard business model for small business growth. Um, and in stage four, then you have another. Simone had talked about this earlier. Every problem you solve leads to new problems, right? So um, once you get to that past that stage three, you get to stage four. You are ready to execute on growing the business, but that potentially could strain the infrastructure that you have built, in which case you need to look at possibly expanding the footprint of your business, the physical location, perhaps. With an e-com, it's obviously a little bit different, but there may be some structural changes that need to occur there, but as well. Um, and then you get into the stage five, where that's where you're really building that legacy. You're no longer part of that day to day. You have delegated to your team of leaders, and you're kind of phoning it in and just taking a paycheck. That's kind of that's like where you really want to be, right? And of course, stage six, and then sorry, so in that fifth stage, then that allows you to, if you want to, jet out, take vacation, actually retire, hand it off to somebody else. In stage six, then maybe you have left it to your kids or whatever, or the next person, or you've sold it. That that's where it allows somebody to get into that next stage of optimization. So that's where you're building that brand equity and having continue to grow the options. So question is, where are you today? And I would click on that link in the description, take the quiz or the assessment, and find out where you're at. And okay, I think that does it for us. Um, just to do a quick recap, valuation, thinking about valuation, value first thinking, is a lens that allows you to make better decisions right now in your business. You don't have to be selling the business to care about building value in your business either. So I think that's important.
Right.
And a
Caring about it
valuable,
can make your life better now.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah, and a valuable business is a self-sustaining one. It doesn't fall apart when you leave. All right, so take the growth
Excellent.
ceiling assessment in the link in the description. Book a strategy call if you want to grow without doing it all yourself. If you want to figure out what you need to do, get your head around some things, and come back and listen to us next week. We're going to be talking about creating offers that actually convert.
We'll see you